You are listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset with Pete Monfrey and Bill Lowell. We want to help demystify marketing to reduce risk, drive more and better opportunities, and grow your business. Are you ready to master marketing?
All right, don't you love that South African accent on our voiceover lady? That is so awesome. I'm Pete Monfrey. Let's get into the B2B marketing mindset, shall we? This is episode 114. My goodness, we do this every week, so it's not hard to get to 100 episodes. Here's what we're talking about today: the marketing industry in a mature phase. We'll see what Tom thinks of this. I think it's mature, maybe declining, but I know it's really fragmented. It's ripe for consolidation. And today we've got Tom Shipley from AVA Acquisitions to talk about exactly that. So he's building a global advertising agency through strategic acquisitions. He's an expert in omni-channel brand building and business roll-ups. You've heard of his brands, okay? They're widely recognized household names. You see them on TV, radio, online, Amazon, major retailers, Costco. I could go on. Nordstrom, CVS. I'm sure I'm missing some. A home shopping network, actually. I was up at 2 a.m. and I'm like, oh, I know that company. But real quick, some business to take care of. If you're seeing this video live, do us a huge favor. Hit like or comment or share, because that tells LinkedIn to share the video farther and wider. It also helps me feel good about myself, and I just want to be liked. So I appreciate that. Also, very important, this podcast is brought to you by the Agency Founders Network. It's an online platform for marketing services companies like the ones that Tom is buying. And we're dedicated to helping 1,000 agencies break the chains of being just another vendor, help them become more strategic. So stop being a commodity, become a trusted advisor, and you can join for free at Agency Founders Network, Agency Roundtable Management. I used to belong to a group like that called Agency Roundtable Management back in the day. So welcome, Tom. Agency Roundtable.
Great to be here.
Agency Roundtable Management, Dave Williams. Now, I don't know if that's familiar. A Second Wind Network, Tony Mike's. Those were networks that back in the day you would join. It cost a lot of money. You'd go out to a resort and you'd sit around with agency owners, and you'd learn from them. And we would share our financials and all that stuff. I just love it. Now it's all, of course, online, but I love this idea of scaling from the bottom up. And tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing. And you have a podcast as well. So tell us a little more. Let's get us started here.
Okay, so right now I am acquiring digital advertising agencies, and that's my main focus of what I'm doing. In addition to that, twice a year, I run an event where I get to teach 100 entrepreneurs and CEO how to scale through acquisitions. So again, you put those two together, and my goal is to change the way entrepreneurs and CEOs think about scaling. And this is primarily for businesses doing under 100 million in revenue, because if they're doing over 100 million or 150, they're probably already doing acquisitions. So it's the opportunity to scale programmatically and systematically with a very measured level of risk. And as you know, Pete, from as many years as you've been in the business, is to do year over year 10, 15, or 20% growth without falling back and having a bad year is extremely difficult and almost impossible to do. However, you can scale through programmatic acquisitions and do an acquisition every year, which gives you the growth you need.
That's really interesting that you say that. It can be a very maddening business. It's definitely cyclical. And I never really thought about the idea that it's almost impossible to get out of that cycle completely. I've seen a few agencies that appear to do it, but I don't think so. I think it's appearances. Excuse me. And I do think there's more and more acquisitions going on. And it's something I never really thought about, even, when our agency was doing seven figures in the mid to late 90s. acquisition wasn't really on our radar. And I think it was just my own sort of ignorance, and we ended up even not selling that agency, which we should have,
Mm.
right? But there was some things going on in our personal life that made that sort of impossible. But I always kind of look back and we're like, we had operational systems, Fortune 100 clients, you know, that was a saleable agency, I
Yeah,
think.
it sure was from everything you shared with me. And let me also share some, some information that people might find interesting.
Please.
Imagine this. Imagine that you can acquire one business a year that's a third of your size. Very simply, third of your size. Why that's magic is it really doesn't change your culture or the makeup of your company by acquiring something a third of your size. I'm going to call it as bite size. And imagine every year you just acquire one in a very systematic way, and you continue growing that in your businesses the way it always has been growing. Within 5 years, again, do that 5 years in a row, your business will be worth 10 times more than it was the day you started. You cannot do that through organic growth. So if you are thinking about an exit, it is the most predictable way for you to give exit opportunities. And whether it's an exit means I want some cash in my pocket and I want to use my platform to do more acquisitions, whether it means you want to be part of a bigger platform for that to basically get the next bite of the apple, or you want to create your path that you're on to your next business or your next venture and next industry. Again, the goal for entrepreneurs should be that you have optionality, and acquisitions is an amazing path to do that.
You know, that's amazing. I actually think that when people think of having their business acquired or they're thinking about exiting, they're thinking like, I got to get out of this business, right? It's actually an opportunity for them, right? Acquisition solves so many problems. That's something I've learned recently. Like almost every problem you have in your agency can be solved by being acquired. And it doesn't mean that, I mean, I guess if you choose, you can be out. I don't think that's ideal for the buyer. I think they want to keep as many things intact as they can. Is that right? I mean,
Not necessarily.
not
Not
necessarily. Okay.
necessarily.
So sometimes you
Yes.
want the owner out.
So I'll be very clear is that we have a different way of doing things. So we start with is we want to find out what the motivation and what the goals of the owner, what the owner or the seller is. And we can create many situations if we know the truth. And a lot of times when people are selling their business, they're trying to position things in the way that
Right.
you'll want to do a deal. And what our goal is be completely honest with us. We bought businesses where the owner just wanted to be gone the day after the transaction, and he had a team in place and a CEO in place that can run the business, and we're good if that's what his goal was.
Right.
If it basically is, there's ways of structuring it to achieve the goals, and that's our job as a buyer is to try to find that Venn diagram of what they ideally want, what we want as far as those circles, and find that area of opportunity in the middle that is the intersection to be able to make them happy and us and create a deal structure accordingly.
Right. So
So
there's really no standard way. It sounds like it's very customized for
it
each
it
acquisition.
it is customized, and so I've learned a lot over the years. I have 14 acquisitions and exits I've done, and what it enabled me to do is build a playbook, and that's really what I love to teach people and open their eyes. And you said that most of your business challenges can be solved through selling your business, and I'm going to flip it. Most of your business challenges can be solved through acquiring businesses. And if you think about it, is if you have a cash flow problem, you buy a business, you can solve that. If you want to expand to a different channel that you don't have expertise, you can start hiring people, which is very risky to do and developing the SOPs, or you can acquire the expertise in that area. If you want to go into a new vertical, if you want, again, if you need an infrastructure of a higher level of talent that you don't have, boom, you can do that. Yeah, it's interesting. It goes back to my beginning, and I'm gonna say my first business. We started the business with $10,000. We raised some money along the way. We built my first, and I've been building platforms for 25 years. And it was an online store. We mailed out millions of catalogs every month. We had a dozen pages in the Sky Mall magazine for those people that remember Sky Mall.
Yes.
But along the way, we ran out of money.
Hmm.
And we fortunate got a call from an investment banker in New York who said, Tom, I have the perfect acquisition for you. And I'm thinking there, we have no money. What do you mean perfect acquisition is what I'm thinking. And Lee said, it's a division of Boise Cascade. They're spinning off a business similar to you in direct response, but they don't have a home for it. It doesn't fit into their model. And you can create an extremely opportunistic deal, which we did. And we got the cash back that we laid out for that in 30 days, just to give you an idea. And
Wow.
but we had a motivated seller. If not, what were their options? If they couldn't find the right buyer, they would just close it down. So, and yes, it tripled the size of our business. It solved so many challenges for us and create opportunities. I merged my business with another business and an exit a year later. Now, fast forward 3 years later, what I did is I took my playbook for building iconic brands using direct response marketing. And my partner and I applied it to an industry that had never been done before. And we were told by everyone we're going to fail because we were told in 2005, will never, ever, ever be able to build a iconic, decade durable beauty brand using direct response marketing, which we thought did make sense because unit economics and the way we can, again, understanding marketing and great storytelling conversion, I thought they didn't know what they were talking about. So my partner and I went financially all in. On the one hand, on the great side is we proved that we can get our online channels was fine, but we had great metrics in radio and print advertising for the skincare brand we developed. The only challenge was we did, and again, the customer acquisition cost was great. The lifetime value was great. The challenge was after 12 months, Pete, is we ran out of money.
Hmm.
So what do you do when you run out of money? You go to playbook. My playbook number one is you buy a business. And my partner and I bought a $15 million. And again, remember, it was my partner and I living in Richmond, Virginia, or in the attic of of a real estate business, and we were starting this business from scratch. And we didn't have systems, infrastructures. Our online marketing was mediocre, and so we didn't have technology. We found a business, $15 million business, doing $1.5 million of EBITDA, growing fast. And they had technology, they had infrastructure, they had a programmer, they had designer, they had fulfillment, they had everything we needed, and we ended up buying that. Again, remember, we had no money. We were out. We couldn't even pay our mortgage.
I was going to
And yet
ask.
we couldn't pay our mortgage. Again, it wasn't really great times in the Shipley household, but we bought this business that was doing $15 million in revenue and $1.5 million of EBITDA of cash flow. So again, now
Sure.
we had cash flow. And so we put our business of 331,000 hydroxytone on this platform. And within 3 years, the business did $100 million. On that first brand, we did over $1 billion of revenue. Now remember, what problems did I solve? We were out of cash. We got cash flow.
Right.
We weren't great on online. We bought a business that was great and we didn't have a tech stack. We got a tech stack. We had marketing expertise. We had designers. They had a pipeline of marketing that we were able to plug into our business and combine everything together. It's supercharged and create the opportunities. You're able to solve most every business challenge through acquisitions.
Yeah, and I think I misspoke. I was thinking about exiting, but it's I guess it's acquisition. Whether you're being acquired or you're acquiring companies. Um, we're talking about such common problems in this business, and the common theme there is, and we were out of money. We were out of money, and was this Caranique was the brand?
So that first brand was hydroxytone,
Oh, it's
and then
hydroxytone.
yes, and we had a couple smaller skincare brands, but this was our next brand that was our most iconic one was Caronique 2009, identified a clear blue ocean opportunity, or what I really call a purple ocean opportunity, for no one really had ever built a women's hair regrowth brand specifically or for women. Everyone's going for the full market or for men, but one out of every three women suffer from hair loss. And that was a big opportunity. And Karen Ake, $700 million later. Again, we were successful in everything from radio, print, online was always the main source. From Facebook to YouTube. Again, it was just a great business. It was the 15th largest infomercial business in the United States. We were the third largest radio advertiser in the United States. In the United States, we were the third largest short form TV advertiser. And the lesson I learned then is that, but every channel we had within 5 years, we were out of that channel, which the lesson I knew, which was every offer, every campaign, every channel eventually over time will wane. So you're constantly having to reinvest.
Yeah.
I made one mistake during those years is we were so successful in starting brands from scratch that we didn't do acquisitions.
Hmm.
What we should, and therefore we invested heavily into new brands. Many of the brands couldn't get the velocity, the amount of money and resource it takes to launch a brand from scratch, and it's all coming out of your own capital. And you can't borrow for that. It's basically comes out of your
Yeah.
pocket. We would have been six, and not that we weren't successful selling over $2 billion of products, but the level of success and the level of risk and stress would have been so much less if we would have gone find businesses that were doing 3 to 5 million in revenue, acquired them, put on our platform, and then scaled them to 10, 15, 20 million or 100 million. It would have changed a lot for our business and made things just easier. And therefore, I've been passionate now since I flipped my business model when I launched my next business, which was all about acquisition, that all I want to do is scale through acquisitions and deals.
I love it. I love it. And you know, I think I think it's let's get to our questions because I think the first question is very relevant to this. But and that first question that I wanted to ask is why now? Now you've been actually doing this for quite some time, but it looks like to me, and again, I love that you please you're very comfortable being like, hey Pete, you're totally wrong. That's great. I love that. Right? Um, Seems like marketing has become very mature. The marketing industry, in fact, it seems like the Wild West more than ever. And it's extremely fragmented. But then you have these little gold nuggets that are in there that are doing their thing, and and like you said, they've got this infrastructure built, which I think what you're talking about is you can muddle along for a long time and spend an awful lot of money trying to figure out how to put this together, or you can buy it and move 100 times faster. But why is now a good time to be acquiring specifically marketing services companies? I don't like to use the word agencies. I want to include there's all kinds of
A
different
hundred,
marketing companies.
100%. I'll start with this. There are over 95,000 agencies in the United States. Again, it's exploded, the amount of marketing agencies of various sizes. You'll have a significant percent of those where the owners will want to get out of the business, and it could be because they've been doing it for 25 or 30 years and they're tired. And these are, or whether they just, they got into it for because they love their practitioners and now all of a sudden they're running an agency and they don't enjoy it. 80% of all agencies that go, 80% of all agencies that go to market never sell.
Hmm.
Even when they get LOIs, they never sell. So what does that mean is what do the owners do? At some point, they have no choice but to basically hand it over to their employees, hopefully, or close it down. And that's really where the opportunity comes in is majority of the market will the agencies won't sell and therefore the goal is you have regular conversations with sellers that those once in a lifetime opportunities should be coming along a number of times a year or every month because the goal is to find the sellers that are highly motivated. It's a specific type of business that is good for you and for your business that gives you asymmetric growth. And that's what we're looking for. Is we're looking for those great opportunities. We've acquired businesses where the agency owners have been doing this for 25 years. And what their number one concern was, they've taken a lot of money out of the business. Their number one concern was their employees. Number two was their clients. They didn't want to leave them high and dry. And then three is if they can get incremental, strong revenue streams over the time, they will. So here we are, come in, we create a structure, said, okay, keep on doing client relations and business development, keep on doing it for the next year. If you enjoy it, we have this economic structure that you can keep on going. but we're going to pay you, we're going to pay you this for your business. Now, here's where, Pete, that a lot of people don't understand. If you're a large private equity firm, you like to use, or you're a private equity backed agency, you like to put a lot of cash to use, you like simple deals, is you might end up paying a business owner 50% cash for their business and the rest of it in a seller note and with some type of caveat on future performance. And there could be some upside potential to that, but that's the standard way of doing it. But if you're a business owner and you have the option of closing my agency or giving it to a good buyer and of finding a good home for it, and I can get a little bit of cash, maybe 5% of the business, what it's worth off the table, but then get guaranteed cash payments every month, and I don't have to stay in my business, and I can go do my next venture. I can go for my next adventure in life and start my next chapter. It is enticing to a lot of business owners that is out there because they look at the strategic options and they're not there.
Man, I wish I met you 20 years ago, Tom. I really do. This gray hair is here for a reason. I've spent my whole life in this business, and it's just hard. It's a hard business. I know that from talking to agency owners, and of course on our platform, it's been a soft year from a demand standpoint, really globally, because I talk to agencies all over the world. But here's the thing, here's the kicker, in my opinion. Many of them don't have the structures in place for growth to begin with. Either they don't know how to sell, for example, or they don't really understand their costs. And they could have been in business for a long time and still not grasp it. And so it's hard to blame external forces, because at the same time you've got agencies right now that are killing it, right? They're
Yep,
usually
that's correct.
very focused, very niche oriented. They've got really good systems. I've become more of a consultant, so we're not really an agency anymore. But I think it is a good time. It seems like a good time to be buying some of these firms. But uh, let's talk a little bit about the acquisition criteria, because it sounds like you're not really looking for those firms that are highly leveraged or that are having problems. You're looking for something else. What's the
Correct.
X
Okay.
factor?
So I'll start with this. I don't like to buy failing businesses, period. The amount of work and resources you will spend trying to turn businesses around, regardless of how great the deal is so significant when, if you're having enough conversations, you're buying successful businesses where at a minimum they're flat, but hopefully having some nice steady growth. They're having low churn. They have a nice business generation engine in, so they're getting constantly new clients and they have longevity with their clients. Ideally, they're, again, from my perspective, I don't like project-based businesses. I like, because then you're constantly on the hamster wheel. I rather be have retainer-based businesses, so there's consistency and predictability when it comes to revenue. And it all starts with this. It all starts to what's your core business? What's your niche? Very, very defined on that, and creating an acquisition criteria based on what would add value to your agency. If your agency has been in the home, basically you support home services, it's what you're great in. And then suddenly you say, well, let me diversify and go into the into the pharmaceutical business. Totally different business. Even if the ideal opportunity falls on your lap, again, large clients, small boutique. Once again, there's no DNA in common, and potentially a culture class. Now, the number one criteria I think you and I spoke about before was culture, 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 culture. I will step away from the best deals and the best agency if it isn't aligned with my culture that I have within my company, because it is a recipe for failure. And there's really no such thing as, if an agency is growing and effectively, it's not a bad culture, it's just different than yours. So as we look through the criteria is, I start from certain premises. Is it a failing business? Is it growing? What's the margin look like on the business? What's their niche? What's their focus? Does it fit into my buy box criteria and what I'm looking to expand on? And I have a very clear understanding of what my business is, where it's going, and the type of acquisitions that fit into it.
Culture. The first thing I thought of is, so I've been a musician for 47 years and a band leader for just about the same amount of time. And culture is everything in terms of who's going to work in that ensemble because, and I have a book coming out about leadership, and it talks a lot about this. Like, it doesn't matter if you're the best player in the world, if you don't fit the vision that we're trying to achieve, and you're not culturally a fit, never going to work, never going to happen. And I think we found this out with our agency. We were in Milwaukee. We made a lot of hires that I think culturally were wrong for us, and 100% of the time they didn't work out. And it mystified us because we were so focused on their skills,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it was painful. It was a painful lesson. So I love that. So it's you're looking at a lot of different things, but you said something really interesting to me. You said, "What's the best thing for the agency being acquired?" Right? That's awesome, right? Because it's in your best interest to make that work, so that company flourishes under your
That, by the way, and
banner, right?
that's exactly it. So it's like it's ours and theirs, and there has to be that Venn diagram of intersections and benefits that they're going to be healthy. And when it really comes down to it, why culture is so important, and also why alignment of strategies and plans is key important, is because what you're doing is you're buying a people business. Every business is a people business, but especially in the market services business. And if you don't understand that, well, it might be a great deal. If you have the team leave after the acquisitions, the clients will follow and you haven't bought anything. So we spent an inordinate amount of time on the integration. What happens day one when it closes? The plan's already in place. We start planning on this. Once we have a signed LOI and we're a letter of intent to acquire, we start planning every due diligence, everything we're doing. It starts to build our due diligence playbook. And Pete, you said something as far as wish you knew this 15 years ago. The reality is most agency owner, most business, I don't care if you're agencies, if you're SaaS, most business owners don't understand that this is just another key strategy that every CEO, entrepreneur, founder should be incorporating in their books. And if you understand the process, it's SOP driven, standard operating procedures, just like you run your business. It's a playbook. You run that playbook and consistently, and it protects you from doing bad deals. It helps you set up the parameter for good deals, and you just execute. And doing one a year is not that aggressive of a pace. If you say I want to do one a month or two a month, like I know that Eric Huberman Hawk Media has had that goal to do two a month, that's extremely aggressive. And if you can do that, that's fantastic. But as I share with you, one a year, a third year size over 5 years will 10x your value. If it's close to half your size and you do the same thing for 5 years, you're talking about almost a 20x increase in the value of your business. So again, the
Wow.
numbers are intriguing and that what that means is it's exit opportunities for you. And that's period. And again, being an entrepreneur and having exit opportunities, I also believe, Pete, that every entrepreneur should have three exits in their lifetime. Now, sometimes it could be on the same business. You can get three exits. But it's beautiful if you think about it, is that we just have chapters in our life. Businesses are chapters. Our businesses don't define us, even though we're all in. We're passionate. We have to succeed. We have to solve big problems. And using our businesses to do that is part of our identity. But we should have multiple identities and multiple businesses because life is bigger than that.
Yeah. You know, it makes me think about in my household growing up, my dad was an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. And I think the first big business that he had was the Milwaukee Flying Club. Had 28 airplanes. And I was 2 years old at the time, so I don't remember much of it. But I don't think that this mindset of there's a lot of people who start companies to be acquired. Like, they have the end goal in mind, and they build it for that purpose. And I really love that. And I'm teaching my son that that's an option to think about. But but really it should always be part of your strategy and your plan for your business. You're not going to stay in that business forever, especially now, in this century. Doesn't happen. Um, I've been in business for 34 years. I'm an anachronism, right? Um, but is that, sometimes I think it's a mistake, right? I think I've missed a lot of opportunities. So, again, I knew I would learn a lot on this podcast. So,
And Pete, I'm going to say this to entrepreneurs and founders is that be careful of building your business purely to exit because you can be chasing a lot of windmills and never get there, or a lot of rainbows and never end up at the end of it. So what I say is that I build a business that you would want to buy. Build a business that you would want to buy, and if you think of it that way, if you have a great business, there will be a lot of buyers for this. But if you kind of are chasing, well, a good business to buy is in this niche, and you're constantly chasing that, it's going to be challenging. A business that you would want to buy 5 years ago is um, great culture, amazing team, delight your clients. You are great and on the edge of great, as far as understanding practices and how to give the most value and give asymmetric results for your clients. Again, you can create the list of things, a business that you would want to buy. And if you find a business like that, you would love to have it. Well, there'll be plenty of buyers out there for that and it has a specific niche that they're great in and they dominate the niche with a reputation that's an industry leader. So you can create your list as far as what you're going to buy, but constantly changing your business. And I've seen entrepreneurs do this. They constantly change their business to what buyers they think want to buy. And I say build a great business that's decade durable, that's scaling, that's growing, that adds significant value, and there'll be a lot of buyers out there. There are those people, Pete, that are great at the quick flip, and I'm not one of them. Meaning that they quickly see a trend, such as AI. Okay, I'm going to build a quick AI agency. I'm going to bring people together. We're going to go into businesses and we're going to implement AI in order to turn their business around. And implementing AI tools in their business, and we're going to scale it very fast and flip it in 18 months to someone bigger. And we're going to go for a land grab of great clients, but then they're going to quickly flip it, and they're always just chasing the next big hit. They could have been focusing on crypto 3 years ago, and then or 4 years ago, and then crypto hit the wall. And so people chase cycles, and it's if you can do that, then great. But to me, that's exhausting, and sometimes you'll end up with, well, of course, if you were chasing the crypto trend when Sam Bankman-Fried blew up, then of course you were left there with really challenging situations.
yeah, and I think my poorly stated point was acquisition or making acquisitions wasn't even on our radar. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Mm-hmm.
I think it should be on your radar, but I agree with that completely. I mean, your whole reason for starting a business, for my dad, it was always the brass ring, right? It was always the money and the status, and of course, he never quite got there. Now, I think he did have status, though he didn't know it, right? But he ended up being a
Mm,
master cabinet builder and actually started making violins towards the end of his life that were extremely
mm,
expensive
mm.
and are still selling on the secondary market. But that was unknown to him. And so, you know, I'm hoping to teach my son that you have so many options, but the way to if you're going to have your own business, you got to focus on delighting customers and
Mhm.
delivering real value to your client base. And that's a separate skill from marketing, like how to take that and create and deliver value, right? And that's the hard lesson I learned wasn't good enough to be a good technician at what we did. And of course, since we started in 1990, the entire industry has changed. But um, there was all these other skill sets that we needed to learn, and so that was a big lesson. But let me do a real quick little promo here. If you're listening to this out in podcast land and it's just coming in your ear hole, you're missing most of the story because it actually is a live video podcast. So you can go to b2bmarketingmindset.com, get the rest of the story. A lot more information there, another 100 and I don't know how many episodes at this point. Great guests, lots of great stuff there. And so just wanted to let you folks in audio land know that. So thanks for for giving me that little opportunity to plug the program, Tom. Um, so the next question was, I saw something about the 2Y 3X. I love that kind of stuff. It's so concise. I think I know what it means, but tell us what you mean by that. What's the it's the
So
2Y
it,
3X program.
yeah, and this is run by, it's a book, it's a really great book for agency owners to read, 2i3x, how to basically 3x your business in 2 years. And he has a playbook on how to do it. It's very much about building a culture around your team, about who will be running your team 5 years from now, bringing them together as your strategic advisory group, and also as the group that's actually creating the roadmap to where your business is going to be. And Felix Velarde has done a great job of putting that in a book. He's implemented that over a number of companies. And it's not part of what we've implemented in one of our companies. It's not something that I'm involved with, but I appreciate Felix for his talent and his experience and what he's done in doing that.
Awesome. If I look distracted, well, one, I wasn't on camera, but if I look distracted to Tom, I was writing that down because I'm gonna have to go buy that book. Um, you know, I think that there's a lot of chicanery in the it's an adjacent industry that are people saying, I'm going to help you, I'm going to show you how to build a seven-figure agency, as if there are some clear, repeatable steps to that. I mean, I do remember, a long time ago, sometimes hard to remember, but we practically stumbled into the Fortune 100. Like we didn't set out to do a lot of the things that we thought was our plan ended up not being the business, right? Like we weren't
Mm-hmm,
trying to
mm-hmm,
position ourselves as a hot
mm-hmm,
multimedia shop in the
mm-hmm.
Midwest, but we found out that that's how we were positioned. So our positioning wasn't our actual positioning, but it was attracting Harley Davidson. And you mentioned home services to pharmaceuticals. That would be the exact opposite for us, where we were in big pharma. I wouldn't know what to do with a home services company, no idea. So at least we knew that much. Like, we're not gonna, once we started building up these industrial technology companies, we pretty much stayed with that. And so I have to admit, it wasn't a conscious plan. It was seemed to make the most sense. Now looking back, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what you should do, right? Um, Sometimes, though,
Can
it's
I,
not as intuitive. Sure, go ahead.
if I can share a story with you about a friend of mine who has a great agency, Canopy, it's Brian Burt.
Oh, sure.
And they're one of the leading Amazon agency. Austin, well, of course, they're remote, they're international, but Brian's based out of Austin. So Brian, in his early days, Brian's one of the more brilliant marketer and business development people I know. He started his agencies, and I'm going to say that they did a great job from positioning and pricing, but they were fine when it came to operations. Brian went out, found an agency that was doing the highest level of service of any Amazon agency. They were a boutique, and their challenge was they couldn't bring clients in, so they could barely make payroll. Brian acquired the business, gave everyone raises, and this was an acqui-hire model. And again, he didn't, because they weren't that profitable. It was easy for Brian to put together. He gave them a great home, but suddenly he had 1,500 pages of SOPs. He brought the level of service to the best in the industry, charging his premium pricing. And now suddenly, fast forward a few years later, a $200 million offer to buy his business. The issue he needed to solve is how can it, without hiring and spending years developing the SOPs and and training a world-class team, how can I do it through one acquisition like this? And he did. So again, how are you problems that you're solving? Um, if you look at where his agency is now, he understands that the core of their business is marketplaces and Amazon. They're very good in Amazon, and they're very good in Walmart. The hot marketplace right now is TikTok shops. So he's acquiring a TikTok shop business. He has, hundreds of clients that he can turn that onto and create that as a very significant opportunity and ride the wave of how hot TikTok shops are in building in and also helping to continue scale his agency, as he wants to be the number one marketing service agency in the marketplace business. Again, that's the power of what acquisitions can do for you, is even identifying, as you said, those things that are hot that people perceive as hot, and use it as a way to keep on generating clients when you have your core business, and especially if you're the best in the industry at doing that, of being able to service them for more than just that one thing that they perceive they need. And it
Right.
gives them the reason for switching their current agency.
Well, and that is a super clear position, right? I mean, it almost doesn't get any better than that. And a lot of people don't even understand what the word positioning means. So I appreciate that you do. Um, I love it when I can use the just the regular words with people and not have to define them. I love that. So so we've already talked about kind of what you look for, and so I want to jump to our last question for today. And honestly, Tom, and I already knew this, and that's why you're on this program. You are an absolute master at this business, and so I'm really pleased that you're on the program, and I appreciate you taking the time today to do it. But what is the biggest motivator for you? I mean, I can see that you're very motivated, but what motivates you? I have a feeling it isn't money.
Okay, no, no. And I'm going to say that there is as Alex Sharfin says, the entrepreneurial archetype. We are the hunters. We see opportunities everywhere, and we have to stay focused to solve the big opportunities around us. We're the type that likes to roll up our sleeves and have impact. It drives us. It gives me energy to identifying opportunities. And what I like to do, Pete, is I like to add zeros onto ideas. If I'm an idea, I'm going to challenge myself and say, add a zero onto it, and then add another zero, and then saying, okay, what would have to be true to make this possible? Brian Burton and I did this when we launched Foundry, Central Brands, which turned into Foundry Brands, is we said, what would happen if we buy an e-com and Amazon business? And I said, then what if we buy a couple of them? What if we buy 10? What if we buy 100? How can we build this new CPG company? So again, I get excited by big ideas, developing a plan to pursue it, and having impact through the pursuit of the ideas. And Pete, you and I spoke about this. Whenever we decide that we're done, or at the end of our days, when we look back as far as the impact that we've had, I think that one of the greatest impact that people have that they miss is it's the people that were in our tent along the way. It could be family, it could be friends, it could be people that help, but it was especially our teams and our employees. They come to us for a limited amount of time. And if we can help them from a quality of life, from skill sets, so they go on to the next place at a higher level for a higher level of fulfillment, that impact, whether it's to individual lives or some bigger vision, that impact is what drives me and gives me energy to solve problems and solve big ones.
Yeah, well, I love that. In fact, it makes me think, so many of my employees are still my friends after all these years, and we're talking hundreds of employees, and so I have to think that I must have done something right. Um, and some of them still do some work for us, which is really nice. But what a great topic! What I'd like to do is, um, we're just about out of time, but we can, you know, let's put together, our final thoughts to wrap this up. And I would love to start with you and what are your final thoughts on this topic? And this is a topic that could go 5 episodes, by the way. And what's the name of your podcast? Where can people find you?
Okay.
Let's start with
It's
that.
it's the Deal Playbook. You can find it on Spotify as the easiest way to find that. You can I put content on LinkedIn. I put a lot on Facebook and Instagram under my name, Tom Shipley, as a way to get there. The other thing I'll share with you is that we every 6 months we teach our playbook, and originally it was just for agencies. Then we opened up for brands. The next one we're going to have a lot of SaaS and services business. It's going to be in Nashville. It's February 24th to 26th, 2005. And we have, again, what I do is I curate only 100 CEOs to be in that room, and founders. A couple of people, after interviewing, I actually refunded their money for the last one, because again, it's the level of people and the relationships in the room. And so we will change the way you view acquisitions. We'll give you the tools, we'll give you the resources. And that's my goal. If I could change the way businesses are acquired in a responsible way, and therefore have a bigger impact than I can do on my own, I've won. So that's it. You can find information out on that at dealconlive.com, which is short for dealconferencelive.com.
Yep. And man, I wish I could be there, and I won't be able to be there, but I would love to be there. I don't know if I qualify though, but that's okay. So you can find
Pete, I
Tom
would
on.
love to have you.
Well,
And besides, it's Nashville.
we'll
It's a
talk.
music town, and with your background, oh my gosh.
I love Nashville, actually. But this is a huge topic, and I would encourage people. It's T-Shipley on LinkedIn. Tom's pretty easy to find, and my thoughts are this. The biggest thing that I learned today was organic growth has become impossible. That's a big statement. And I'm not sure if it's a thought I've had, right? But I think you've confirmed that if you're able to grow organically, you're kind of an exception. And it didn't always used to be this way. Like, we did grow organically, so that's very planted in my mind. But I think it's become like a lot of different mature markets. It's a game of acquisition now, acquiring and being acquired. And so I love that you're in the right place at the right time. DealCon sounds amazing, and I'll just thank you again for being on the program. I know it wasn't easy for you today, and what a great episode. I hope people paid attention, and I hope we have more conversations in the future.
Great, Pete. Thank you.
And if
Good
you
night.
want to just hang around just for a minute while we go off the air, you're listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset with Tom Shipley. What a deal.
You've been listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset with Pete Monfrey and Bill Lowell. Add to the conversation by commenting, sharing, and liking. And don't forget to subscribe and check out the links in the comments. Learn more at b2bmarketingmindset.com.